The Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala, Vijayanji, Shri N. Ram, Chairman of the Organizing Committee, my friend Mr. Baby, Professor Rajan Gutkal, Chairman of the Higher Council, Mr. Narayanan, my friend from Rajya Sabha, and friends. I thank the Chairman of the Organizing Committee, Shri Ram, and all others associated with this important conference for rebuilding a resilient Kerala. A philosopher might observe that nature is antinomian. How else can you explain that God's own country has been devastated by forces that the orthodox amongst us would attribute to God and the rationalists to nature? And it is perhaps not prudent to delve into Plato's argument that God is good and can therefore be a source of good only, except for justifiable acts, punishments that may emanate from God. So, unjustifiable punishment must come from elsewhere. The grim facts about the disaster that struck many parts of the state of Kerala are well known. Its details are heart-rending, and the consequences of its impact in human and material terms. About 500 lives were lost, and by any standard, the destruction of 20,000 houses and 10,000 kilometers of roads, amounting in monetary terms to a burden of around 30,000 crore rupees, is immense. Equally devastating is the impact on farmers whose crops have been destroyed. Particularly damaging has been the loss to products like rubber, paddy, cardamom, and black pepper. Nor is the loss in the service sector and tourism to be ignored. By August 20th, when the flood started receding, nearly 12.5 lakh people were rescued through individual and group efforts and remarkably well-coordinated work by the state machinery and the armed forces. It is only a technicality of the law that depicts it as a disaster of serious nature, or L3, and not a national calamity. Much has been said and written about nature's fury. Some of it could have been anticipated. The ecological fragility of the Western Ghats, depicted as biodiversity hotspot under a high degree of threat, which extends up to the state of Kerala, within one of the three ecologically sensitive zones. The 2011 Gadgil Committee report generated some controversy. It was followed by the 2013 Kasturi Rangan report, which is said to have watered down the recommendations of the earlier report. Other experts have opined that a flood by itself is a natural phenomenon and becomes a natural disaster only when ecological norms were ignored. This ongoing debate between ecology and environment on one side and human needs and human greed on the other, along with comprehensive assessment of the human-environment relationship, does not seem to be heading for an early settlement. These debates were overtaken by the deluge of last August and added a sense of urgency to relief and rehabilitation. Yet, and while commending it, some hard questions are unavoidable. What was the human contribution to it? Did human habitation habits, construction of buildings, in the path of the flow of water contribute to it? Were any essential rules or guidelines ignored in the construction and management of dams? Today's seminar is focused on, as the invitation letter put it to me, medium-term and long-term rehabilitation and to the task of building a new and resilient Kerala. Sequentially speaking, therefore, it is important to know what was done in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. One newspaper seems to have summed it up by saying that the flood, and I quote the paper, is reinventing the spirit of social engagement and sacrifice in a society that has embraced the path of materialistic pursuit and crass commercialism with rare zeal in recent decades. It goes on to add that the grim situation opened up enormous human possibilities of collective selfless action. Good Samaritans were there everywhere, saving victims from the jaws of death, setting up relief camps, and reaching food and clothes to those who found themselves homeless. Kerala reinvented itself, end of quote. Allow me to dwell a little on resilience. It is the process of adapting well in the first face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threat, or significant sources of stress. Psychological research has shown that resilience is ordinary, not extraordinary. It is thought and action that can be learnt or developed. Social support helps the process. The people of Kerala have shown that they have this capacity under stress. The challenge now is to sustain it in the period of rehabilitation and reconstruction. The Honorable Chief Minister has spoken about it at some length, and the task now is to shape it in practice and on a continuous basis. His emphasis on restoring the livelihood of people and of the small-scale establishments, along with other aspects of reconstruction, was people-focused. His focus on mode of reconstruction and environmental changes in the aftermath of the flood is timely and can be ignored at great peril in the future. One of the themes of this conference relates to learning from the experience of other countries. Natural disasters are regrettably a fact of life, and the United Nations University Institute of Environment and Human Security has developed a World Risk Index in which India, along with many other countries, figures in the high chance of disaster category. The risk of disaster gets aggravated if the social backdrop is vulnerable. Kerala is in the list of 10 most flood-prone regions of India, and given this susceptibility, the question of coping and adaptive capacity assumes critical importance. Enough has been written about their immediate and remote causes. The critical questions, however, are the following. 1. How much of this analysis has gone into the operational and maintenance manuals of operatives at all levels of the state machinery? Second, what lessons have been learnt at supervisory level? Has a list of do's and don'ts been made and updated in the light of experience? And third, will the participants in this conference discuss candidly the mistakes made and the lessons learned? The question of financing the reconstruction is of immense importance. The obvious sources are state government and central allocations. The possibility of emergency funding from international institutions within accepted norms should also be explored. The public of Kerala responded magnanimously immediate aftermath of the crisis. This has to be sustained. These are some of the questions that this conference would address. I congratulate the people of Kerala on their resilience and wish them success in their endeavor. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.